The NBA landscape is always shifting, and while this recent trade didn't directly involve the Utah Jazz, its ripple effects could be felt in Salt Lake City. The blockbuster deal saw the Minnesota Timberwolves send Karl-Anthony Towns to the New York Knicks in exchange for Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. On the surface, it may seem like just another big-name trade, but for Jazz fans, there are some key takeaways and potential impacts on Utah's future. One major point of relief for Jazz fans is that the Knicks, who were rumored to be interested in Walker Kessler, are no longer in the hunt for a center. Kessler, the rising star in Utah's front court, had reportedly caught the Knicks' attention for months. Hypothetical trade scenarios floated around, but nothing materialized. Now that the Knicks have acquired Towns, their need for a player like Kessler is diminished. This is good news for the Jazz, who are unlikely to part with Kessler unless the right offer comes along. His defensive prowess and shot-blocking ability have made him a cornerstone of Utah's future plans. With New York out of the picture, it removes a potential suitor in case the Jazz ever considered putting him on the market. That means the Jazz can continue to develop their young star without worrying about external pressures from big-market teams. Beyond the Knicks, this trade reshapes Minnesota's future, which could directly affect the Jazz in terms of draft picks. Let's not forget that Utah still owns a significant portion of the Timberwolves' future picks, thanks to the Rudy Gobert trade. With Towns gone, Minnesota now faces a critical period of uncertainty. While last season was one of the best in Timberwolves history, the team is banking on Randle and DiVincenzo to help carry them forward. However, Randle's inconsistency and Towns' massive contract, which the Timberwolves offloaded, bring a lot of unknowns. Minnesota's decision to trade their franchise player for cap flexibility and a new core could either help or hinder their future success. If they struggle to replicate last season's performance, this could be excellent news for the Jazz. The less successful the Timberwolves are, the better Utah's draft picks will be in the coming years. Adding to the intrigue, veterans like Rudy Gobert and Mike Conley are not getting any younger. If Minnesota can't find success post-Towns, it could spell trouble for their long-term outlook. And that could be a win for the Jazz, who hold the Timberwolves' draft rights through several upcoming seasons. Ultimately, the Karl-Anthony Towns trade shows why the Jazz have been smart to stick to their rebuilding process. Utah has been focused on developing its young core, players like Walker Kessler, Keontae George, and Lauri Markkanen, while keeping their future draft assets intact. This patience and focus on growth could pay off big in the coming years, especially as other Western Conference teams make more desperate win-now moves. Justin Zanuck, the Jazz's GM, has made it clear that Utah is not interested in quick fixes that could leave them stuck in mediocrity. Unlike the Timberwolves, who may have mortgaged their future for short-term gains, the Jazz are building for sustainable success. This trade reinforces the importance of Utah's long-term vision, which focuses on player development, smart acquisitions, and maintaining flexibility. As we look forward to the 2024-25 season, Jazz fans can feel confident in the direction the team is headed. The Karl-Anthony Towns trade may have big implications for Minnesota and New York, but Utah remains in control of its own destiny. The Jazz have a young, talented roster, draft picks galore, and a front office committed to making the right moves for the future. If you're excited about what's ahead for the Utah Jazz, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Utah Jazz News for all the latest updates. What do you think about the Karl-Anthony Towns trade and its impact on the Jazz? Let us know in the comments. Your opinions matter, and we love hearing from passionate Jazz fans like you. Welcome back to Utah Jazz News. As we gear up for the 2024-25 NBA season, we've got some important insights from the team's leadership regarding the future of the Utah Jazz. General Manager Justin Zanuck recently shared the franchise's plans, and it looks like we're seeing a major shift in strategy, a focus on youth development. But what does that mean for the team, especially for veteran players like Jordan Clarkson? During Media Day, GM Justin Zanuck addressed fans' concerns about the quiet offseason, and he provided some clarity. Many expected Utah to make a splash in the free agency or trade market, aiming for a big-name player. After all, the Jazz had been teasing the idea of going after an all-star caliber addition to the roster. However, Zanuck made it clear that while the team is always aggressive in looking for opportunities, this summer didn't present the right deal. Instead, the Jazz have decided to double down on their young core and focus on player development. Zanuck emphasized that their energy will be directed toward grooming their young talents and building around Lauri Markkanen, the team's standout player from last season. This approach isn't just about filling roster spots. It's about building a championship-caliber team for the future. Utah is putting itself in a position to possibly secure a top 5 draft pick in 2025, with names like Duke's Cooper Flagg leading a talented class. The front office sees this as the best path to find a future superstar who can elevate the team. What about Jordan Clarkson? While Zanuck's comments centered on youth development, it raises a major question. Where does that leave veteran players like Jordan Clarkson? Clarkson, a fan favorite and one of the Jazz's most reliable scorers, has a contract that runs through the 2025-26 season. His role on the team has been crucial, but as the Jazz look to prioritize younger players, could Clarkson's days in Utah be numbered? Clarkson's contract, like that of John Collins, isn't easy to move in today's trade market. That means it's very possible we could see Clarkson in a Jazz uniform for at least the rest of this season. However, with the team focusing on developing younger talents like Keyonte George, Colin Sexton, and Taylor Hendricks, Coach Will Hardy may be faced with a tough decision, balancing the need for Clarkson's veteran presence while still giving ample playing time to the next generation of stars. Despite the talk of youth, Clarkson remains a key player for the Jazz, and his value goes beyond just his scoring. His experience, leadership, and ability to take over games make him an essential piece for the team. Clarkson averaged 17.1 points per game last season and proved he's still a top-tier scorer in the league. If the Jazz are serious about developing their younger players, having a mentor like Clarkson around could be invaluable. While his contract may make trade talks difficult, Clarkson's presence could benefit the Jazz this season. He can serve as a steadying force during what could be a challenging year, especially if the focus shifts more toward player development and less on immediate wins. What's clear from Zanuck's comments is that the Jazz are committed to a long-term strategy. They're playing the long game, and while that might mean some growing pains this season, the goal is to build a team that can compete for a championship down the road. Jazz fans can expect to see a lot of young players getting significant minutes this season. While the team may not be chasing wins in the traditional sense, the experience and growth that these young players will gain could pay off in future seasons. The Jazz are banking on this approach, hoping to find their next franchise player in the draft or through internal development. But what about Clarkson? Will he be part of this future? While the focus is on the young players, Clarkson still has a role to play, whether it's through mentoring the young guards or continuing to be a scoring spark off the bench. His contribution to the Jazz's success this season could be more important than ever. The Utah Jazz are entering a new era, one that is focused on building a sustainable future. GM Justin Zanuck has made it clear that the team is all in on youth development, and while that may come at the cost of immediate success, it's a strategy aimed at long-term growth. With players like Lauri Markkanen and a promising crop of young talent, the future looks bright. As for Jordan Clarkson, his veteran presence and scoring ability will still play a key role for the team this season. The Jazz may be pivoting toward youth, but having a player like Clarkson around is a valuable asset. What do you think, Jazz fans? Are you excited about this new direction? How do you feel about Jordan Clarkson's role moving forward? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching Utah Jazz News.